Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, and in this video we're having another look at one of my favourite loadouts in the entire game right now. It's the bar and the Welgun combo. Now I'm just going to shred through Beachhead right now. We want to clear this area out, make sure we get our loadout, so enjoy some of the background footage right now. I'm playing with Sam, or Shermanator as it's called on the game. Terrible name, also playing terribly in this game, absolute bot. Sorry mate, I love you, but absolutely carried your ass through this entire game. Just buying Sam back in, we can't all shred through our players as easily as I just did then. Pick up a nice quick 6 kills, go straight over for the loadout. I like landing at Beachhead, great rotations off there. We're going to go for the bar and the Welgun combo. Check this thing out at range, this thing absolutely destroys. Be sure to like and subscribe if you have enjoyed this video, there'll be plenty more to come. Another quick little team wipe, we can now go for our Ghost loadout. Obviously you want to make sure you get yourself off of the map. Pick up a couple of self-revives. This guy thinks he can drop straight on his loadout. That is not going to happen. Let's go get Ghost. Always have a Ghost loadout built, you guys. You want to keep yourself off the map. Let's go push some teams. Welgun and Combat Scout is a disgusting combination. And then when it comes to the bar, just getting these people out the skies as any long-range kill is just a death machine. Beaming some more people down here. Keeping high ground while you're rotating is obviously key to making sure that you do well on this game. We're going to use the fire sale, pop yourself an advanced UAV, going to bring up those ghosted players, going to bring up all of those people, push straight in, rack up some easy kills. Teammate unfortunately gets killed, but we can finish that guy off with the Welgun. Thing absolutely shreds. That's the main reason we're doing this video. We've already done a video on the bar. It's the exact same loadout that I've done the video on. We picked up a lot of the kills with the bar here, but this maximum mobility Welgun build is absolutely insane. Unfortunately, we get picked off on the gas line right here by this little straggler. Kind of ruins the game, but it's still a 16 kill game, so I thought it'd be nice to put in the background and talk over. Let's get to the Cronus settings. Let's get to the build of this Welgun. It is absolutely insane. This paired with the bar is my favourite loadout right now. We've already picked up a good few wins with it, so let's jump in and see what we're using. Now to start with, if you want the exact same settings that I'm using, I think these will work really well for anyone, but I use the button layout tactical flipped, which basically means that you're shooting with the bumpers and aiming with the bumpers rather than the triggers. Go ahead and select tactical and press square, and you can swap between tactical and tactical flipped. Also means you can slide cancel with your stick rather than circle, so you don't need to come off your aim while you're moving around the map. For my minimum input dead zones, I have it at 0.08. I find that it doesn't really affect your controller at all. It means it gets rid of any sort of dead zone inputs. Really, really nice. My stick horizontal and vertical sensitivities are on 10. For my ADS multiplier, I have it on 1.0. Now, sometimes I will turn on the custom sensitivity per zoom, and the only one that I tend to change is the 3x zoom here. It basically means that if you're using a gun that's slightly harder to control, when you're aiming down a 3x scope, it's going to be a tiny bit slower, maybe to allow you to beam people at distance with a little bit more control. But recently I've had that off. Go ahead and change between them, see what you think. Aim response curve type has got to be dynamic. That is just absolutely the best one in the game in my opinion. Controller vibration has to be enabled. Now we can disable that with the Zen settings, but for it to work properly must be enabled. Aim assist is standard. All these controls are more or less standard. Weapon mount exit behavior, I have it on enabled, and for the aim down sight behavior, steady aim behavior equipment, I have that all on hold. Now for your use and reload behavior, stick that on contextual tap so that you have one touch for essentially doing anything. Really, really good to use that in the game. For the slide behavior, put it on tap. This will mean that your slide cancel feature on your Cronus Zen, especially working with automatic tactical sprint, which you see here, is just so dominant for moving around the map quickly. I think most of the pro players will tend to have this kind of setup. I'm not saying I'm a pro player, but you will see why they use that setup, and then everything else you can see how it is. Now for the graphics settings, put your camera movement at least at 50%. This just means you get far less screen shake, weapon motion blur, and the world motion blur, just turn all that off. Just copy these settings exactly. It's going to make your game a much nicer experience to play on generally. And then for the interface settings, I put the colorblind type on this one. I'm not going to try and pronounce it because I'm going to butcher it, but just copy these settings, makes the game pop, makes it look really, really nice. And again, everything else is really personal preference, but those are the in-game settings that I'm using, so that when I give you the Cronus Zen settings, as long as you copy everything exactly, you're going to get the exact same results that I tend to have. So let's go ahead and jump into the weapon builds for both the bar and the Welgun, and then we're going to go ahead and jump to the PC, and we're going to have a look at what settings we've got on there in order to get these guns behaving really, really nicely. So for the bar, we've already done a video on this gun, but just to refresh you, we're using the Mercury silencer, the 30-inch barrel for the most recoil control range, all that good stuff. Carver foregrip. I use the .50 BMG 40 round mag and lengthened as the ammunition. Fully loaded as perk 2. We go on hard scope for perk 1 and the polymer grip. Now hard scope basically means that when you aim down sight for a couple of seconds, maybe even like 1 to 2 seconds, the gun just becomes a laser. It barely moves. It's a really overpowered perk. Really, really good anyway. That's exactly what you want to have on any gun that can really have it. It's a really powerful perk to put on your gun. Let's go ahead and look at the stock and the optic. So we've got the 3 to 6 times optic, and we also have the Chariot WR stock. So that's what's basically going to complete the build on the BAR. You can change whatever optic you want to for preference, but I find that these two go together really well. And then for your camo, I'm going to go ahead and stick the atomic on if you do have it, just so that you can flex on people when you kill them and they look at your kill feed. Now let's go ahead and look at the Welgun. So for the Welgun, this is the new build. Now the camos are unfortunately broken, but we do have this one atomic, so when they fix it we can flex on that as well. We're going to go ahead and use the recoil booster. For the barrel, this 240 Hockerson barrel basically increases the limb damage, and it means that you get less damage range drop off. Now because you're hitting most of your shots at chest and arms, etc., when you're pushing people, trust me guys, this barrel is insane. For the underbarrel, I use the pistol grip, so you get faster sprint to fire times, a little bit better hip fire accuracy. For the magazine, I use the 48 round Gorenko mag with incendiary, and honestly it's the way to go. Pairing it with quick and unmarked and the fabric grip, crazy movement speeds, the optic slate reflector, and the stock I'm using the Gawain skeletal stock. This build, I'm telling you guys, will have you flying and frying. Now for our perks, tactical and lethal, I use frag grenades and stims. In the gameplay that you saw before, I actually had stun grenades on. But trust me, I've been using stims and they are just absolutely insane for pushing people and just running at ridiculous speeds when you've got your SMG out. And then for the perks, you really want EOD, Overkill and Combat Scout. And the only one I change on the second loadout is Overkill for Ghost. And that completes the build. Now that we have our in-game settings sorted, let's head over to Zen Studio, and for this loadout I'm using the Call of Duty Vanguard pack. Now there is a brand new update to the Warzone Essentials pack which people are quite excited for, but for this particular loadout it works really well with this pack, so just jump in there, match up all your in-game settings. I'm using tactical flips on the button layout, I'm using the default stick layout. For your sensitivity or dead zone, just make sure that you match them to what we have in-game. So for my in-game right stick dead zone, I have it at 8, which corresponds to 0.08 as we set in the game. And for the in-game sensitivity, we're going to go ahead and put that up to 10, which is what I use in the game itself. For our in-game response curve type, we're going to go ahead and use dynamic. It really is the best one in the game in my opinion. I think everybody should be using that. For the block game rumble, this is really important. Make sure you select enabled on here and also have your controller vibration enabled in the game. This will cancel out your controller vibration, so you'll get no rumbles, but you need to make sure you have these settings done or the Cronus doesn't quite work properly in the game. For the anti-recoil, we're going to go ahead and enable that, of course. And for our primary weapon, we are going to go ahead and use the BAR. Now, I've already done a video on this, but go ahead and set the primary value to -14. The gun's got so little recoil anyway with this build that you essentially need to balance it back out again. With our secondary weapon, we're going to go ahead and use the Welgun, and we're just going to leave that at 0-0. Now, one really good thing about this particular loadout that I'm giving you guys is with the ground loot, no matter what AR or what SMG you pick up, these two settings will actually iron out some of the recoil on the ground loot guns as well, so it's just nice to have it on. For the weapon profile switch method, put that to automatic, so that it automatically switches between your weapons. And finally, you want to make sure that you have the slide cancel feature enabled. And that is basically everything that you need for this amazing loadout.